Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. It's just going to be a short one today. Something a fair few people seem to ask in the comments is about crafting unit kits. So I just wanted to do a very quick little video just demonstrating just kind of how it works, at least in the briefest sense. So I'm currently in Tulis Varos, and I am at the sort of the little refinery section. So we have the billeting officer over there, the refinery officer, and the weaponsmith. So we can obviously go to the unit weaponsmith, and this gives me the options to create kits. Obviously, kits are specific to the region you're in. So if you're in an Ostarian region, so Ostaria or Unvenka, then you can only build the sort of Western style kits. And if you're in Maoyang or Liangyung, complicated names, then you can only do the Eastern style kits, because they're the Western regions and the Eastern regions. That's kind of how that works. Obviously, I'm currently in a Western region, so as you can see, I only get access to the Western kits that I can craft. And they're kind of broken down into 4 tiers. You've kind of got the basic kits. As you can see, these are your sort of lower tier units. We're probably going to be doing some Courtiers, because these are the cavalry that I need. Then we get some higher tier stuff. The Squires, again, another unit that I use. And then as you get higher down, you get the men at arms. And then you get some of the really high tier units. Now, you will notice in this place, so in the regional capitals, is the safe land is Tulis Varos, that it's only a tier 4 city, so I cannot craft any of the purple kits. That's because if we go to the open world map and take a look, you'll see it's a level 4 town. So because of that, we can't craft anything that has a level requirement of over level 4. So if you want to do a level 6 one, then you'd either have to go to, say, one of the frontier towns, or you need to own territory in the open world and then try and level it up. And if anyone's got anything really that high at the moment. But basically by doing thief quests, you can level up towns and you can craft then higher tier materials. So yeah, you're going to be having a hard time. Having a hard time getting any of this stuff sort of unlocked at in any of these towns, because you can't craft these tier kits, because you can see the thief level is just not high enough. So if we wanted to craft a Courtier's kit, you'll see you click on it and it'll tell you to craft 1. It costs 25 silver to craft 1, and these are the materials you need for 1. 30 raw iron, 20 seasoned wood, and 20 tanned hide. I normally write these down. I've got my piece of paper, because then when you flick over to the overseers, it's kind of useful to have the requirements for what you need, depending on how many you want to craft, so that you kind of know. So we know that's what we need. So if we head over to the refinery overseer here, this is where we're going to craft the raw materials we gather in the open world, and then put them to use in some of this stuff. So if we go and click on the refined resources, we already know we have some of the raw iron. I think I had 120, something like that. But when you go to the refinery overseer for the common materials, you'll see that there's 4 options available. So siderite ore, magnetite, limatite, and hematite. And all of these create 1 piece of raw iron. But depending on the grade of your ore, if you just got the very basic white ore, you'll see it requires 10 to craft 1 raw iron. If you got the purple, which is the best, the highest grade hematite, then it only requires 6 to craft 1 iron. So there's no direct benefit. It doesn't produce better raw iron. It produces the same quality of raw iron, but it requires less of it to get 1. So it's so much more efficient, particularly when you actually consider you're paying a silver cost to do this as well. So, if you start to bump this up, you can see if I wanted to create 380 raw iron bars, it's going to cost me 760 silver. And it's going to take 38 seconds. You just set that off, and you can see that this processes this slowly and is doing it through the thing. Another thing to bear in mind is when you get to the things like the Squire kits and stuff, you're no longer using these common materials, but you use uncommon materials. So these are the blue, the next grade up of material required, and you'll notice no longer is it just the raw iron ore. Not only do you now need the hematite, but you also start to need rare resources. So calamine in this case, the copper you need, tin, obviously to make an improved copper, bronze as we might call it, and there we go, we've got our raw iron. So you have to bear in mind that you're going to start to need some of the rare resources as well. And generally I'm finding this stuff pretty rare, like none of it's available on the market. So generally it's stuff that you're going to have to get out and go and find yourself and harvest in the open world. One thing just to bear in mind, if you're really confused as to which one is it, it gives you a little description if you hover over it. An exotic resource of silicates. It can sometimes be found when collecting copper ores. So if you want to get some of the calamine, you don't get it out the iron mine, but you get it out the copper mine. Much like if you want to get the tin from the copper, or to make the copper, then you'll see it says it can sometimes be found in iron mines. So it gives you a little description of where you can find this stuff out in the open world. So it's worth bearing in mind. So anyway, I'm going to go and just do some more refining, get all the resources I need, and then I'll meet you all back at the refiner, the weaponsmith, and we'll make some of these unit kits that we were talking about at the start. So I've got all my resources refined, and I've just head back from the refinery overseer back over to the unit weaponsmith. That was my phone. Don't check your phones. Don't panic. And we head over here to the create unit kits. Then obviously we go back to our Gortaliers kit. I've just made enough resources to make 3. Obviously, if you're doing a unit, you're going to need 18. So it's worth bearing in mind that there's a fairly significant silver cost to this. You know, if you were to do 18 just on this, that's 450 silver for making the kits. And then you're probably going to be in for sort of another couple of thousand in terms of the resource refining. You know, you're going to be at least a couple of thousand silver creating these kits. A lot more efficient than just doing it by bronze, particularly if you have a reasonable amount of silver like I do. But yeah, just worth bearing in mind, particularly if you're a newer player, that sometimes it is just cheaper and easier just to pay the bronze price. But, you know, this is another way you can do it. But for now, I just did enough resources to create 3 because I just wanted to demonstrate it. And of course, you just craft these like normal. It does the job. And then, of course, you just get the 3 kits, which, of course, gets loaded in your wagon. And then, I don't know if my Courtiers are at full strength or not. They are not. Let's repair them. And of course, I actually have lost 3 kits. That's perfect. So I just made those 3 kits. Obviously, I can resupply them, and now they're back up to full health. So that's perfect, and that didn't really cost me all that much to do that in silver. So that was a bit of a saving on some of the bronze. And that's pretty much how the unit crafting works. As I say, when you get into the higher tier stuff, it gets more complicated. Another tiny little tidbit, if you weren't aware, is that on some of the frontier towns, so places like Western Frontier over here, if you visit these places, you'll notice that they have in them something called a weapon smuggler. If you go and visit that, they have some of the rarer unit kits available to buy. You know, it'll be things like some of the higher tier stuff. If we can have a quick look, it'll be stuff like this. It'll be like some of the Fusilier kits, maybe some of the Winged Hussar kits, that sort of thing. Some of the really high tier unit kits, and they'll be for sale in them. And they'll be like 3,000 or 4,000 silver per kit. But that's one way that you can buy them for silver without having to pay the bronze price if you go and visit some of those frontier towns. Every frontier town has like 3 or 4 available, and they kind of vary depending on which frontier town you visit. So you kind of have to move around the map a bit to find which one you want. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Just a quick video. Say it's something some people seem to ask about a fair bit in the comments. As you get onto the higher tier unit crafting, unit equipment crafting, you know, obviously you run into these exotic problems. That's something else to bear in mind, that you know you have to sort of keep collecting from in the open world. My final point, just before I go, in case anyone isn't completely unaware, is that obviously you have this technology tab here where you can spend your research points improving your resource collection. Just worth bearing in mind, because you get to this one here and it increases iron ore exotic production by 100%. That's a really significant one, so that'll be kind of useful as you get into the later tier game. But obviously you've got to do quite a bit of collecting to get that unlocked. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade, and I shall see you all on the next video.